We're set. Go.
Okay, so you have the roll call.
I do.
The only one that's missing, I think, is Louise, and she didn't contact me, so it kind of surprises me. But I'll be in touch with her anyways.
I did send her, and I know that sometimes she doesn't get the invite. So earlier today, I sent her another link.
Uh-huh.
And I had to use that. So maybe, hopefully she'll use that, or, maybe
Good.
she's.
Good. Did anybody hear anything from Deep other than me? Okay, I had correspondence with them in regards to the consent order, and I'll talk about that when we get down to the new business. Steve, anything from Department of Agriculture that we have to be aware of?
No, sir.
Beautiful. Bill, anything from Department of Health?
No, just a couple of things I'll relay under old business with Wilson Point.
Okay. And Harbor Commission, Jeff is not here. He's going to try and join us. He was getting off a train. And when he can get a connection, he'll hook up. And Planning and Zoning, I haven't heard anything from them. So right to old business. Diane, anything on MS4s?
I may have missed it. If you know of anyone that has sent, I don't think anyone has sent me their comments, so I'm just going to put together my own. Joe, is there a chance that you could send me the comments that you sent in? I mean, I know how to acquire them, but it would just make more sense if we corresponded.
I'll see if I can dig them up.
Okay, that would be helpful.
Yep.
So that is all. It was a
Okay.
September 1st deadline. Sometimes people like deadlines, and so we have till midnight and people can get their comments in.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Dick or Bill, and Dick's not here. So-
Sure, I'll fill in. So Dick and I went out yesterday morning and did some testing. And everything was like was really, really good. The highest we had, which was the outfall from that inland pond where we've had really high counts, was only 41. Everything else was less than 10. We couldn't get up into the tip of the cove though because of the tide.
Low tide, yeah.
So we didn't get to that one, but like I said, it was 41 at that outlet where typically it's been pretty high, so it was really good. As far as our beach testing, it's been really good as well. We did have, let's see, Village Creek didn't fail. It failed the first test. It retested and it passed today, but it was 500 when we tested it on Monday. But it was the only one of all the beach samples that we did that had any high counts whatsoever. So things have been looking pretty good on that front. But that's it for me for now.
Steve? Okay. Yukon program to reduce runoff from impermeable surfaces. Louise was going to look into that. That's why I was hoping she'd sign on. And I haven't heard anything. I did hear from a few people about that, and I tossed my hat in the ring on this because I think with all the construction that they want to do in the future, that could become a very important action to get involved with. But other than that, I'm not sure if we're going to go ahead with it, whether the city wants to take it on. I did send an email out to see if there was interest, but I haven't heard anything yet.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I saw from our minutes and my notes from last month that we had said that we would send a letter to the mayor's office requesting that they consider applying for the Yukon Clear special project, because we, especially in light of all of the impermeable surfaces in the north end of our harbor and the problems that arise from it. And you're right, the development that's planned, et cetera. So I I couldn't tell whether that letter was a group effort or does your email suffice? And if so, could we have a copy of it?
Bum, bum, bum. I forgot to do it. So I
Okay,
will,
so let's work on it for next, as soon as we can. I don't know what the deadline is for this.
well, if we do it, it's gonna take longer than if I get it out and say it's from the committee.
Oh, yeah, no, what I'm saying is, I don't know if there's a deadline from Yukon. I don't have the announcement in front of me either, but I think we still have time
Okay,
to ask the mayor's office to apply through their grant person.
and to look into it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else under old business that needs to be addressed? Okay, under new business. The USGS data today was really, really interesting, comparing the maritime data, maritime aquarium data to the Cove Marina data, in that there's a 10-degree difference in temperature. And that becomes very significant for any life that's in the harbor area. And it shows very significantly in the oxygen levels. The oxygen levels out by Cove Marina are wonderful. They're 6 parts per million. If you get in near the maritime aquarium, on the surface, it's down to 2 parts per million, part of the time. So with that, with the warm weather still, I mean, tonight might help. But with that, we might start to see fish kills. And I hope that's not the case. Bunker are in the area, but not in large numbers that they have been in the past. And if I was a bunker, I'd stay out where it's nice and oxygenated rather than coming in here. And it's also 10 degrees cooler, which is more conducive to them. So other than that, I think if you look at the data, the temperatures tell the secret to how everything unfolds with the data. I'm not going to go through every item that they have. I mean, you all can take a look at it anytime you want. And they are, Rebecca is going to come down, and she probably is going to be coming down, or not coming down. She'll be attending a meeting with the Harbor Commission. When that is, and that's at the end of the month, and they will be reviewing how they collect the data and what they do with the data and the significance of that. And they're going to do that for the Harbor Commission. So if you want to log on as a spectator for the Harbor Commission on that date, you're more than welcome to. Okay, next thing, consent order. I'll weigh in at the end. Anybody have any comments, criticisms, or whatever about the consent order? No?
Joe,
Go ahead, Diane.
No, you go first, Steve. You spoke first.
Thank you, ma'am. So the TEEP employee who replied in the email, it seemed like she was trying to let the document speak for itself rather than to comment outside the document. And I guess in terms of like the violations and what their focus is, to me, the document like maybe isn't as clear. I don't know if that's what you were after.
Yes. Yeah. I was asking for that, and I was asking for a clarification of what percent of sanitary sewage versus storm sewers go through the sewage treatment plant during a rain event, and I did not get an answer for that. So I don't know if they even know. Bill, do you happen to know any of that?
I do not, Joe.
Okay, and that's,
Are we speaking about the Ralph Kolb response to your email that you?
yes,
Okay. It's my understanding that the city has made the efforts, as they were asked by the federal and state government, to separate the old historic combined sewer from and separate them. And
Yes,
it's very expensive to do so. So they have to go avenue by avenue or street by street. They, I believe, they do know where these sections are of the city that are still have either combined or they have major infiltration due to age, et cetera. So they do have maps, and the DPW staff should be able to get you and explain the information on that particular question. And after Steve is done, I do have a comment about your question to us. Go
Okay.
ahead, Steve.
No, I yield, Diane. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So I'm glad that you sent the email, Mr. Chairman. One thing I would like to see us in a follow-up, or once the comments back are made, to have a relationship or a ongoing communication with not only the Water Pollution Control Authority, but also the Public Works Department, because your point was taken. And going forward, I would like us to suggest to the mayor's office and the DPW and Water Pollution Control Authority, at the minimum, that they include us in the information flow when issues like this appear. Now, according to the Freedom of Information Act, if someone is in the middle of a negotiation, a legal issue, they don't have to show the public, but we are part of the city's infrastructure, the governance of the city. And while I'm not suggesting we should be sitting in the negotiations, although I think that at times could be helpful depending upon what the issue is, I would like to see the Water Quality Committee to be included in the communication stream for any kind of violations or follow-up, or any kind of a replacement of equipment. What was said over and over again in the press as well, as Ralph Kolb's response to you, is that the Water Pollution Control Authority discussed this matter publicly for month after month. That is really not quite correct, because they went into executive session. So while, and I still have to check by the Freedom of Information law, when any agency, public agency, goes into executive session, they have to tell the public why they're going into session and not make any votes to come out of session, and then discuss whether votes were taken or not. And I have to check the agendas for the months cited by Mr. Kolb and others to see whether, in a way they're expressing that they've been doing this quite publicly, when actually it's a little bit of a misnomer, because they go into executive session, which again is their right to do so. My point and our point has been that we are part of the city as a whole and should be part of considerations, suggestions, problems. We were invented as a result of Terry Backer suing the city of Norwalk way back in the late 80s, I think, when Mr. Esposito was the mayor. And we were created, as you have often said, and others, Jeff and others, to be an oversight, but also a support and suggestion. So I think I'd love to see us following up to Mr. Kolb. Number one, I think that they should be, the Water Pollution Control Authority should be the first stop on our dog and pony show, to not only give them and briefly chat about our water quality goals that we spent a lot of time on, but also to let them know that we are here to support them, work with them on the basis of this consent order. We look forward to more communication, all of that. And going forward, ask the mayor that should there be future issues and follow up to this consent order, that Water Quality Committee through the chair be included. in the bump list, or the bump list, I guess, that your name, our Water Quality Committee would be on the bump list of all the proper entities that are informed. Thank you. Now I will yield.
Steve?
No, I mean, Diane makes great points in this regard, and WPCA has said that they wouldn't attend harbor management. I would assume that'd be the same for this committee.
That is
and
correct.
for shellfish. I don't know. I wonder if it's worth it to attend one of their meetings and discuss if they open from executive session to address these concerns directly and publicly, what they can or are willing to discuss.
The gut feeling I have, Ralph has said to me on more than one occasion that if we wish to know what's going on with them, we can look at their minutes or we can attend the meetings. And the meetings are open to us. I don't share Diane's enthusiasm about going around to all the committees and telling them this is what we do. I don't think that's as necessary as Diane feels. And I don't think parading us around in front of everybody is going to make everybody happy, because they may feel we're infringing on what they've been selected to do. And in essence, you might be stepping on other people's toes. And if you wish to draft a letter and send it out, Diane, more than happy. Whenever you usually say we will do something, it ends up me doing it. And there are other people around here. And if you send a letter and everybody agrees to it, we'll send it out. I mean, that's the least we can do. And informing the mayor that we should be included on things like communication on the consent order, yes, we should, no question about it. As well as, other departments. So I thoroughly agree with you on that. Any other comments on that? Diane?
Well, as I've said before, communication and educating each other, if done respectfully, which it would, is a good thing. And the thing is, it's not parading around or stepping on toes. I don't want anyone listening to this meeting or any of you to feel that I brought it up to do those things. It is not. It is a way that we all can work together to better the city's water quality. And this issue with not knowing about the consent order till months later is just an example of how much we do need to have on occasion exchanges, gatherings, getting together to help each other, not to hurt each other, it's to help each other. That is why we were formed, and that is what my intent was. So
Diane,
Yeah.
reflecting on the consent order, us knowing about it, I have to think, is to what purpose? If the wastewater treatment plant and that branch of the city government was doing something that wasn't right, and we were then going to check on them, I could understand stepping into their arena. DEP was already in agreement with them. The city of Norwalk was in agreement with them. So why should we be involved?
May I answer or
Yeah.
thought? Having been on the Water Quality Committee in its different iterations for years prior to it taking time off with Mayor Moshe and then Mayor Rilling reviving it at John Romano's and others' request. It is right in our alley. We are a part, Joe, of the city of Norwalk's structure. And so, of course, we should be considered, in essence, we have some great talent right here and some that couldn't make it tonight that have a variety of experience, both professional and as advocates. And so because the city, of course, wants to improve its water quality when there's an issue, and this has been a multi-year issue, it's not something new, that we can help and should be informed. For instance, what I would have liked to have seen is someone from the Public Works Department, Mr. Carr, or someone from Water Pollution Control, like Mr. Kolb, just send an email out to the select commissions and boards that have anything to do with sewer spills and say, listen, we are in the process of a negotiation, or we've been served a consent order. We have every plan to follow it. We just wanted you to know, because we are part of the family. So
And I agree with that.
your suggestion that why should, I don't know if you're being rhetorical, but if you are truly thinking we don't have a part, I respectfully disagree with you.
I didn't say that. To what degree we have, at this point, no involvement with this, because it's already out of our hands, or anybody's hands, except DEEP and the water treatment plant and the city of Norwalk. Now, we have no indication of any pollution that's been happening. No, we don't. Do we? Who has it? And why hasn't it been given to us? So therefore, us getting involved with another committee's business, literally, unless they come to us and say, can you help us with this? That's a whole different story.
I respectfully disagree. The purpose of our group is to help the city. Once again, I'm not going to keep repeating it.
I said that.
I respectfully disagree with you as to why we should be part of any effort to improve water quality. And there are reports that the city sent to the state, and others have reported the city. Again, I am glad that the city is making efforts to heal thyself, but as the oversight, in a way, the watchdog entity in the city, we should be part of helping move it along, if not just at least knowing about some of the efforts. We may have some suggestions. We also want to welcome the public to feel, and this has not always been the case, that they can bring us water quality complaints or concerns, I'll say, to make it more positive. And so I'm just a little puzzled as to your, I don't know if you're being rhetorical or if you truly believe what you're saying about our role in the city of Norwalk. And I'll leave it at that.
I'm not changing our role. I'm basically saying we should stick to it. We have a role. You're saying there was data out there, but this committee has not seen any of the data. Not one bit of it. The only time we hear about it is when Bill or Dick goes out, and most of that in the last year and a half has been involved with another area. So we get involved when we know there's an issue that hasn't been picked up by any other committee, and that's our responsibility. So why we would dip our toe into other people's waters without their request, I have a tough time with.
Well, after your comments, I'll use the old sleep on it test and think about it and offer a response. But I mean, I said what I feel about our role. I stick by it. It has always been our role because, for instance, I'll give you an example, Joe. When we found through testing and complaints that there were leaks or people dumping in certain storm sewers, their sewage, we helped with other city entities and staff, including Public Works. It was Harbor Watch, Public Works, Harbor Commission, Shellfish Commission, and Water Quality Committee of the day. You weren't
Correct.
on it at the time. We actually worked together to effectuate positive change. And so that is all I'm saying is we want to continue that effort. And that is why we should be part of the effort.
But now back up and listen to what you just said. You said because we had evidence that and there was not only bacterial evidence, but there was also photographic evidence that people were dumping raw sewage into storm drains as well as other things. And we acted on it, which is our responsibility. And we reported it to the other departments and they jumped in and everybody worked together to solve the problem. And I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Well, we should have had the evidence because it's available. Maybe we should have a subcommittee that looks at this sort of thing. I think it's easier and better if another city agency feeds us information so we can help them. It's just a philosophy about governance that it seems like you and I have drastic differences in why we were formed, why any of the boards and commissions are formed, and how we can help each other. And the mayor's office, which is where we hail from, indirectly, we've been put under the Harbor Commission as a place to administratively right now to stick our entity. So anyway, your premise on how our committee takes action is puzzling to me. That it's only when we hear about complaints that we take action. We know about this. There have been complaints, Save the Sound filed complaints and others.
But
So,
Diane, they did not file it with us.
Yeah.
We didn't hear about it from Save the Sound. We didn't hear about it from Harbor Watch. And and the reality of that is it's so easy for them to email their data to us and say, we're concerned about this. Can you look into it? But they have chosen not to do it. And I'm going to address that because of funding. I think we're going to have to make that a requirement, especially with Harbor Watch. If they're seeing data that's suspect, it's important that they let us know immediately, not at the end of the month or in their annual report. That doesn't do anything.
that's true.
Yeah.
But the city as well, we are part of the city. You seem to, I know I'm articulating the matter, is we are one of the entities
There's
that
no
have something
disagreement.
to do with water quality. You have an entity that was aware and has evidence and testing and not punishment, but the negotiations that took place was your Public Works Department, who is staff to the Water Pollution Control Authority. We also have, this could be a health issue. So we have various entities that touch upon beach closures, water quality on the beaches, our Shellfish Commission, and the Health Department and the Council Committee that's oversight to the Health Department and the Public Works Department, which is a different council committee. We are one big family, Joe. So why Water Quality Committee is in an island unto itself is puzzling to me. It is not the way it's meant to be, should be, and could be. And
Diane, it's not an island unto itself.
Yeah.
And if you're hearing that, You're making it up in your own mind.
Okay, well, I'm going to leave it alone right now because this has a lot to do with it's kind of puzzling, but the thing is, I'll leave it alone. I said my piece, you said your piece. There really aren't, Steve, I would love him to say something about it, and John Crespo. That would be great if they had something to say. But the thing is, I've been around for a while, like the rest of us, and we had a different philosophy about when Water Quality Committee is involved and talks to other boards and commissions. And this is a new take on it. You are the chair, so of course your influence has, definitely a role. But the thing is, it would be quite unusual and quite divergent from what we've done in the past. For us,
Diane, you're making a huge error, because I'm looking at a screen and directly above you on my screen is Bill Mooney. And
Yeah.
Bill represents the health department. And he has been reporting to us the data that he gets, whether it's good, bad, or ugly.
Mhm.
And we can make recommendations based on that. Bill can too. He doesn't need this committee to make recommendations. He doesn't need this committee to tell people to put a red flag up or a white flag affecting shellfish. That can be done, and he does that in conjunction with the Marine Police. And then once a month, we're alerted to it. And if it's a serious issue, Bill and I talk about it well before the meeting. And sometimes, and I think Bill will attest to this, in the past year, we've probably talked too much about one issue. It created a headache for both of us, but the good thing was we found that the issue wasn't where the complaint was, but where other things were happening. And people are working on that a little bit at a time. So it is being done. The collaboration is there. So I don't know where you're getting your information from. I can only guess.
Well, I want to take exception to what you're saying, Joe.
You can do that.
Is that, first of all, Bill Mooney said he didn't even know that there was a consent order. And I was quite surprised about that. So that means there's a breakdown in communication. I'm not saying that
I agree.
sit at the table, but for you to assume things about me and my intention, I take exception to that. And I really think we should stop this conversation, because unless, of course, other members want to chime in, and I would love it, but they rarely do when it comes to the running, our purpose. But I'd love it if, I mean, some of them have been on this committee for quite a while, and of course it changes with the time and the tide, so to speak, no pun intended. So please have a little more respect for my opinion about it. It's holistic, and I have done a lot of study, both professionally through the League of Women Voters and as an activist, about how governments operate and work with each other by different boards, commissions, and committees. We can do better. We can always do better and do more of it. And that was my only suggestion. I'm not trotting around, the phraseology. I ask that you, be mindful of what you say, but I'm not trotting around. We're not going to step on anybody's toes. We are part of the family called the City of Norwalk.
Anybody else?
Can I just make a comment, Joe?
Absolutely, John.
Yeah, I agree with Diane in that, we are a bit of like a watchdog for the city, and we can redirect some resources that we have in case there is a problem. Have we known, for instance, that there's a problem with the waste treatment plant, we could have redirected Dick Harris or someone else to look at it, look at the data. But I agree with you also in that basically they're not going to volunteer something that is wrong or something that is going on unless they have to. And unless they're commanded to do that, share that information with us, they won't. So I think the change would have to come from within. We have to make the change. We have to go out there and gather information and act on it if we hear it.
Anything else? Steve?
Yeah, so I noticed that they're in a meeting tonight, or they were at 5 o'clock for their draft master plan update. And according to the agenda, it went into immediate executive session. It's quite interesting. I don't know if that's a hair trigger for executive session or not. Someone else needs to be the judge, but their next public meeting is the 19th. I'm not available. If another member of the committee is, maybe they could go report back and send us all an email preparatory to our meeting on October 6th.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, sir.
Joe, this is Jeff. I called in. I'm sorry I'm late.
We got you.
Thank you.
So any other comments? Okay, I had already, as you're all aware of, I had sent a letter to the mayor saying we were blindsided by the consent decree and not aware of it. And I'm going to ask him for a meeting to see if we can at least be informed of things like this going on. And if there is data being collected, that we be made aware of it. And Jeff, I know for years, has been asking for more accountability when data is collected. And this reiterates that, because Save the Sound's data doesn't come mostly from their own data collection. They're using the resources of someone else. And if they're collecting in our harbor and they find a potential problem, I think it's a matter of conscience that they should be letting us know. And if we have to worry about it, then we send Bill out, and Bill can either send out interns or whatever he has access to verify the data, if he can, even if it's photographic evidence or whatever. And we just hope this everything moves along smoothly. And I think if we can make it a stipulation, if we fund any group that's doing testing on the harbor, that they let us know of these problems, and not other outside agencies first, then we might have good success at handling this. And then, following Diane's lead, we go to these different places and say, this is what we're getting, this is the data we're collecting, let's fix it. But we have to have the data.
Joe, this is Jeff. I'm sorry to be late.
Please.
Might I make a comment on the phone?
Please.
You know, as we talked about this, issues with the wastewater treatment plant many years ago led to the formation of the Water Quality Committee. And the charge of the Water Quality Committee was to make sure that information that was provided to the public or written about in the newspapers was correct. So it wasn't a job of the committee to point fingers or look for problems, but to understand issues. Mm-hmm. And then when the committee discussed them in a public forum, then that was the way of getting the correct information out so that the public understands it. The other point, when we went through the minutes of the WPCA for the year of 2021, and as you know, that there was a public, maybe I'm repeating what you guys have already talked about in the meeting, I'm sorry, but there was the public informational meeting that we contributed to. That was for the renewal of the discharge permit, and that was in January of 2021. And then a few months later, the permit was renewed by DEEP, and then the consent order came about after that. And as I think Steve mentioned, that in the minutes there was no open discussion of that. It was all in executive session. But there was one meeting where there was reference to a participation by Harbor Watch. And Harbor Watch they were talking about data and equipment, I believe. And that I think we should ask Harbor Watch if they've been involved in testing. But again, the purpose of the committee is not to look for trouble, but to be able to have a good discussion, and so that the public knows what there isn't misinformation. But anyway, that's my. Thank you for letting me talk, even though I'm late to the meeting. But as Steve said, that all of the meetings, there was no open discussion of the consent order. It was all in executive session until the meeting where they approved it. But that's all I have to contribute right now. Thank you.
Diane?
Yes, thanks, Jeff, for most of what you said. The one thing I have respectfully disagree, and maybe it's just a term of art, or maybe the words you use, and that is that our committee doesn't look for trouble. I guess you can interpret that in different ways. If we see a spill, in a way, we've seen it, and we bring it to the attention of the committee and appropriate agencies. So I guess because I've been on this committee on and off with different mayors for years. I guess we definitely want to work in concert with other boards, commissions, staff, and departments, because we're part of. I don't know. You didn't wait. Let me finish. Let me finish. You didn't come on, I don't think, when I was stating that we're one family and we are a part of the whole. We are not an island unto ourselves. We help and we offer advice and get information from and exchange and communicate. And that was a subject of quite a few minutes of discussion between myself and the chair before you came on. And it was an interesting discussion for sure. So, but your term of looking for problems, we have helped look for problems in the past. And so I guess I'm maybe I just want to think about all that's been said tonight and, make sure I'm in the right frame.
Well, I agree with you. Let me clarify what I said when I said it's not our job to look for problems. It's not our job to create conflicts between city departments or agencies or assess blame. But you're exactly right that the role is to identify issues that have to be addressed. And the water quality interns and the stormwater testing and the identification of the bacteria being discharged through the storm drains, that was all started by the Water Quality Committee. So you're right, that was looking for problems. I had in mind a different when I said looking for trouble or looking for problems, not to create. The job is to look to identify issues and to address them, but the principal goal was to provide good information and of the Water Quality Committee, and that came about, as you know, Diane, when at the time there was blame being assessed to the wastewater treatment plant for polluting the harbor, and we felt that there were other sources of pollution, which were the storm drains or sources of bacteria pollution. And that's when the storm drain program started. But anyway, we're on the same page. We just have to be careful in the terminology we use. But I agree with you.
Anything else? Okay, Bill, we have time for public comments. Is there anybody in the public?
No hands are up. Oh, here we go. I'm sorry. Okay, Ms. Jones, you can speak if you'd like.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. As you all know, I came to your committees about a year ago. I had concerns. We all know where that went, all right? And so this year, what I did, because I understand coastal area management and the Connecticut Inland Wetlands Act, And I do believe that Wilson Point, which is just one of, maybe many private communities, I do not believe we are unregulated when it comes to coastal air, to the CAM Act or the Connecticut Inland Wetlands Act, that I brought my concerns to the harbor commissions and to you. Now, Joe, I appreciate that you refuse to accept the simple book, Lobster Garden, that I sent last year with the red and the blue lobster, thinking all we want to do is educate about pollution. I live in a neighborhood where new neighbors are told to put the blue doggy poop bags into their storm drains. Wilson Point maintains its roads and its drainage. They have consistently ignored state regulations. Maybe, I don't know, maybe just because they don't know what they're supposed to do. I have complaints out about inland wetlands being filled. And what I realized is when I wrote my second presentation after listening to over 6 months of being insulted, that it's the MS4 that requires the annual stormwater management reports. I was one of the few public people that made a comment at the January public hearing on our MS4. And this year it took 2 weeks. The annual stormwater management plan is supposed to be published on February 14th by the city. It wasn't published. It took me 2 weeks of virtually asking every other day, when virtually the same report that's been published for the last 5 years since we had outside consultants was hired. I was upset because nothing was mentioned about the zoning. When I went to the planning and zoning meetings and they talked about changing zoning, nobody mentioned the stormwater management report. No one to this date has commented when I made a public comment in the virtual window that I could make. I shared it with your committee, and maybe I woke people up to what the MS4 is all about. But as Diane has pointed out, it is an iterative process. It's about educating, and it's about people learning that, it's not what we used to know, it's what we need to know to understand. And maybe it's not a good idea to put the dog poop bags in the storm drains. Now, I took a lot of slack about not having data for pollution, and I have proved pollution before. I have been ignored both by the city and by the state, and it took me going to the EPA. If I see pollution now, Joe, I'm not going to come to your committee. I'm going to go straight to the EPA. And, working with Save the Sound, I think you are incorrect, and it is insulting to say that Save the Sound has other people doing their testing. I think they have one of the best testing facilities out there. And if Save the Sound came to your committee, and if Save the Sound collects pollution test stuff now, they're not going to go to the city of Norwalk. The city of Norwalk's turned their back. They're going to go to the state. And by the way, are you aware Dick Harris and Lisa Shanahan have been having meetings with Save the Sound? Everything's done behind the scenes. And, if I'm just a public person, but I feel that, I've been ignored, that's why I've gone to Save the Sound, I've gone to the state, and I've gone to the EPA as well. Because right now I live in a community that has vilified me, saying that according to this committee, according to you, sir, the chairman of this committee, that Wilson Point did not need permits for the work they did, for the drainage they put in. And I think that's incorrect. Save the Sound came out, they sat there, they said, Linnell, they filled in tidal wetlands, notify DEEP. I did. And now when I have complaints, I will notify DEEP. But I come back and I still feel that I bring up the MS4 is very clear. I shared my stormwater management comments with everyone. The one thing this stormwater management does is includes the complete MS4. And I encourage people to read it because I think our city is ignoring it. And I think that's why you got the consent decree. And I think that it hasn't been easy to speak to these committees. I will shut up in 1 second. But when I tried to speak to the Committee on Sustainability and Resilience, I tell them before I want to speak. I asked to present at the committee. I'm not allowed to present or share my screen. I tell them I want 5 minutes. I'm cut off at 3. Okay. How many minutes did you guys give the leaders of Wilson Point, who basically insulted me? And I'll tell you this, I don't think that the Norwalk Yacht Club is in compliance. And I am going to continue to ask questions because under coastal area management, under the CAM Act and the Connecticut Inland Wetlands Act, I do believe permits are required. And, you know, I think that the public should be able to speak without being insulted. That's it.
Okay, Linnell, just for the record, Harbor Watch does much of the data collecting, if not all of the data collecting in the harbor for Save the Sound. The other thing is, I personally invited Peter Linderoff, who was in charge of data collection for Save the Sound, to start doing studies in Norwalk Harbor. And he very pointedly said they can't do it. They don't have the resources to do it. So that was actually done. I can't tell you more than that because that's what happened. So I have it on pretty good resource as to where the data collection comes from. It also comes from Dick Harris, who is also doing it on behalf of the shellfish companies here in town. And other than that, we've asked for funding to do it. We've been turned down. There's not much more we can do.
Mr. Chair, just as a heads up, we have 5 minutes left
Thank you.
for the meeting.
Okay, any other comments? Okay,
Quickly, Mr. Chair,
Steve,
to Ms. Jones' point of addressing this with state officials, I'm wondering, with the individual who was on that email, would she in fact represent the state side at a committee meeting or send some other state official who would, perhaps for the meeting on the 6th?
Mhm.
If WPCA won't send someone, that's fine. We can go there for what meetings end up being open. Would be very interesting to hear the state's point of view with respect to what they're willing to discuss.
okay,
I'd like to make a motion to invite that individual for the meeting on October 6th at 6 o'clock.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
clearly carries.
May I just, I know we have, this will take 15 seconds. I am concerned when someone from the public who has tried to educate the government doesn't feel welcome. So again, I'm going to think about all that's been discussed about our governance, et cetera. I want to make sure that this committee is a welcoming body, not only to the public, but also to other boards, commissions, committees that we exchange and help each other. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's
Okay,
a good
very,
point, Diane.
very quickly. On the last month's minutes, are there any comments or criticisms, changes that have to take place?
No.
None? And I have a motion to accept the minutes. Steve, second? John, all in favor? Okay, thank you. The minutes clearly carry, and that's, Louise just sent me a note saying she's zoned out. I know the feeling. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn then? Diane, second. John? I will see you next month, October the 6th. Stay well.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.